Thanks everyone for attending our webinar. Today's webinar about SMSFs and about the investment strategies in the self-managed superannuation funds, diversifying your SMSFs, diversifying your investments in SMSFs. And also we are very excited. We have GBA group, which is called Bullion Australia, to participate in our webinar as well. And obviously from the name, GBA Group is going to talk about the gold and silver and precious metals and how you can incorporate these precious metals in your SMSF portfolio. So during the webinar, everyone is going to be muted. And if you have any questions, you can ask us later on. We will have time for Q&As, and also you can send us the message or even contact us after the webinar. So all the details will be provided to you, as well as a recording of this webinar. Let's begin. So I should begin with a disclaimer. So the information provided during this webinar is a general information only, because I didn't consider your personal circumstances, objectives, and needs. All right, so first part of the webinar, I'm going to talk about SMSFs and the investment strategies in SMSFs. So most of them probably know me. I'm SMSF specialist, SMSF auditor, and SMSF advisor. I won quite a lot of awards, but the main point is I deal with SMSFs only. I've been dealing it for the last 20 years, and we help people to grow their investment portfolio. We don't provide the investment advice. What it means whatever asset you want to invest in, you come to Easy Super, and we help you to invest in any assets allowed under this Act. So what is the investment strategy for self-managed superannuation fund? Basically, investment strategy is a plan where SMSF, in their own words, can put the plan for SMSF to invest in different assets. So it's a plan for SMSF to meet their investment goals, because the sole purpose test and sole goal of self-managed superannuation funds is provide the benefits for your retirement. So you have to understand the investment strategy in SMSFs. First of all, it's a requirement under law. So you have to create an investment strategy for the self-managed superannuation fund. Every SMSF has to have investment strategy. And this is a requirement under this Act, like I mentioned before, 4.09 regulation of a CIS Act. And investment strategy has to be prepared actually before SMSF starts investing, because this is a plan, this is a like roadmap of what SMSF has to do. Every SMSF is unique, and every investment strategy has to be unique. So if you see generic investment strategies out there, they would not comply with this Act because they are not unique. So investment strategy has to be unique. There are some requirements which is again under 4.09 regulation 4.09 of CIS Act. There are requirements for the investment strategy. Investment strategy, it has to be tailored for the particular SMSF. However, it has to have the certain components. You can prepare investment strategy yourself. However, you must include these components into your investment strategy. So risk. The investment strategy has to mention a risk of the investments which SMSF is going to buy in the fund. Investment strategy has to mention the liquidity. Liquidity is where assets could be, as we know, liquid or not that liquid. Say, for example, if it's a property in SMSF, it's not that liquid. So SMSF investment strategy has to discuss liquidity of the assets. SMSF investment strategy has to discuss the composition of the entity's investments as a whole. So, for example, the asset ranges, what type of assets SMSF would like to invest, etc., etc. Again, it has to be tailored for the particular SMSF. SMSF's investment strategy has to discuss the ability to discharge the existing and prospective liabilities. What it means how SMSF is going to pay the bills, accounting bills, tax bills, any other bills. So it has to be mentioned in the investment strategy. The next thing is diversification. This is a very big thing for ETO, and it's been for the last few years. SMSF, there is no requirement for SMSF to diversify. SMSFs can invest in one lumpy asset. For example, SMSF can put all the money in property only, or in precious metals only, or in cash only. However, SMSFs have to explain why there is no diversification. And the next requirement that insurance. SMSF must mention why, for example, there is no insurance, or if insurance has been considered, or anything, basically any explanation why there is no insurance. So investment strategy. When, like I mentioned before, the investment strategy must be prepared before the fund starts investing. So it usually would be after the fund is set up, investment strategy is prepared. Investment strategy must be specific. So again, tailored for the particular superannuation fund. Investment strategy must be reviewed at least annually. And this is a very important requirement, which people usually don't understand, that investment strategy is not one to set and forget. It has to be reviewed at least annually. It could be reviewed more often if the circumstances of the superannuation fund has changed. And if, for example, we have members going into retirement, obviously the investment strategy for members before retirement will not be suited for the members after they go into retirement. So this is very important part to understand about investment strategy. As an auditor, as an SMSF auditor, we check the investment strategies, and there is a requirement to check if the fund complies with regulation 4.09, and we can qualify the audit report, and there are penalties. 20 penalty units, which is 6,600 if you don't comply with regulation 4.09. It doesn't mean that you will get penalized if the auditor qualifies the audit report, but this is something to be aware of, that there are administrative penalties for failure to have an investment strategy in SMSF. Who can prepare the investment strategy? So investment strategy could be prepared by any of the trustees. Trustees can do it themselves. There is no formal requirement. There is no formal how investment strategy should look like. However, all these components which I mentioned must be mentioned in the investment strategy. So risk, diversification, liquidity, insurance, all these have to be mentioned. So it's very the investment strategy has to be tailored and has to be comprehensive. Also, the holdout financial license can prepare the investment strategy for you. Mind you, it's investment advice and financial advice. If someone prepares the investment strategy for you, it means they have to provide you with the statement of advice. And it's quite costly expertise. At EasySuper, we assist our clients with the investment strategies. We collate the investment strategy for them, but we don't prepare the investment strategy for them. We just assist them. So the way how we do it, we send the questionnaire, which all the questions cover all the requirements of the CIS Act, and we collate the answers together for the trustees. So investment strategy is fully compliant with regulation 4.09. Let's talk about where SMSFs can invest into. Most of you will know that there are different assets which SMSFs can invest into. We talk about, of course, properties, shares, listed, unlisted entities, collectibles, managed funds, term deposits, crypto, and of course, precious metals. Precious metals and collectibles, precious metals and collectibles could be related as well, which I'm going to discuss, and Ruth from GBA Group, they're going to explain it even more in more details. Let's talk about precious metals, because this is what we are going to talk about today. This is type of assets, which is, usually it's gold or silver. This is what we've seen, like in our clients' portfolio, it's a gold and silver. Sometimes we come across coins, not that much, because with coins, again, there are two types of coins that could be like just, I would say, normal coins or collectibles. The difference I'll explain a little bit later on, but most SMSFs would hold gold or silver in SMSF rather than coins. But again, it depends of what your investment strategy is, what you want to invest into. So, but more about it will be in GBA presentation. All right, let's talk about compliance requirements for precious metals in SMSF. Because one thing is, okay, I want to invest my superannuation in, say, gold bars. And however, you have to understand what are the requirements, ATO requirements, CIS Act requirements to add this to your portfolio. Obviously, sole purpose test. This requirement comes every time you want to invest your superannuation, because first thing first, we manage our super because we want to use it in retirement. So the sole purpose test, that the only goal of superannuation is to provide benefits in retirement. That's it. Dealing at arm's length, of course, this is, like one of the, again, requirement which goes through all the type of investments, dealing at arm's length. Storage requirements, so again, secure storage, because when we think about, okay, we buy gold or silver, where are we going to store it? Are we going to store it at home? Are we at risk that this investment, this asset could be stolen or get lost, or something else might happen to it? So basically, secure storage is one of the requirements for the precious metals. Ownership requirement. Again, when we buy gold or silver, or even coins, are we buying it under our own name or company? Or company name or SMSF name. So we basically have to buy it under SMSF name. Valuation requirements, so all the assets has to be valid, all SMSF assets have to be valid at 30th of June every year. And insurance considerations, so the assets, like the gold or silver, should be insured, so in case if something happens to them. So when we talk about gold bullion, like gold bars versus collectibles, like I mentioned before, like if you want to buy coins, there are coins where, like there are normal coins, you can buy and sell every day, and there are collectible coins, collectibles. The big difference, collectibles basically, it's bullion coins, collectibles if their value exceeds their face value. So basically, for the gold and silver, we have the price of the gold or silver. It's a spot price, wherever it is, so everyone can buy and sell for the same price. For collectibles, it's different. So the value of the coins will exceed the value of the precious metals behind these coins. So And collectibles have much stricter rules in SMSF. So SMSFs can have collectibles. However, the rules are much stricter. We don't see a lot of collectibles in SMSFs anymore. However, some people still like it. And again, for collectibles, it's not only precious metals. The collectibles could be other assets as well. But in this particular case, for the purpose of our webinar, we're talking about collectibles, gold, silver, and precious metals collectibles, which is like coins. All right, so collectibles cannot be leased or used by the related party. Collectibles cannot be stored in the related party house. So for collectibles, they must be stored outside of related party house. If it's just a gold or silver bars, you can't potentially store it in your house. There are difficulties. Again, there are like issues with proving to the auditor that the 30th of June you had these bars in your house. But with collectibles, you can't even store them in your house. So it has to be stored somewhere else. Trustees must document storage decisions. Trustee must ensure the item, ensure, basically get insurance, yeah, and market value obtained manually. So for collectibles, one of the difficulties that every year you have to get the independent valuer to value these coins. So coins are not that common in SMSFs. I have to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of them. Most people just buy gold and silver. Bars or, yeah. All right, so this is all from me in terms of the compliance of the precious metals and also investment strategy requirements. So I kept my presentation quite short because I know we have Ruth from GBA group and I want to leave some time for the questions and answers. But basically, this is about easy super a little bit. So again, so we do everything SMSFs, establishment, tax compliance, advice, audits, any complex issues with ATO. We also help SMSFs to deal with. All right, so I will leave this slide for later on as well. So it's about how you can contact us, but I want to pass it now to GBA group. We have Ruth and we have Katie here. So they don't have slides. Ruth is going to just talk about gold and bullion and how GBA group, gold and silver and how GBA group can accommodate, like your SMSF and how you can buy the precious metals in your SMSF via GBA group and what they do in terms of the compliance, in terms of meeting the requirements of ATO. So you guys confident that if you buy from GBA group, basically your SMSF is fully compliant. So, and we also, Ruth is national sales manager for GBA group, and we also have Katie. Katie is a risk and compliance specialist. Probably more compliance questions will go to Katie, but the guys will explain how you can buy and with your superannuation funds and how, like GBA group, like I said, make sure that you guys compliant and pass all the audits, all the SMSF audits. Yeah, with flying colors, right? Right, let me just unmute you guys.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Natasha, for presenting myself and Katie here today and giving us the opportunity to share a bit of knowledge to the trustees in how metals do sit within the SMSF. The first point in the SMSF, as mentioned, is the strategy. And when we look at the strategy, it actually is a pattern for what considerations a trustee needs to make. So the initial point, there's two paths they can take. They can take with a GBA group, they can have direct metal investment within a vaulting site, or as you said, within a home environment, which most of our auditors do not really approve. So usually they have to look at what the auditor requests, but that's the direct metal. And then I'll elaborate a little bit later about a managed fund that we also have. So initially, when the SMSF has already been set up, what we'd request is that all KYC that applies to a trustee, whether in the individual environment or the corporate, doing an acquisition, will fetch all that information at any of our branches across Australia. And then the most important consideration really for the trustees to consider as part of their strategy how much exposure they would like into metal. They could form that with a dollar amount in mind to start initially, and then they would have their strategy whether they want to have a lump sum or whether they want a dollar cost average, which sometimes we see in the super environment. Typically, it is more of a lump sum environment. And then we promote as much research as possible before making decisions, because part of what you spoke about before, which is the strategy, will form the risk versus return in the trustee's mind, which will tell them where they want to park as a percentage of having gold, silver, or platinum. We offer all those items as part of our menu of services. We don't help the customer form a decision. That's for the advisors and the accountants to assist them where they need. However, we're very happy to provide anything from the data point of view for the trustee to make the best and most informed decision before entering the market. That would be the initial stage. The next stage that we ordinarily would do through a consult is ask the trustee what type of environment are they more comfortable with? Would they like to see us every time? Would they like to visit one of our sites? Because we're open for business and more than happy to do contact. Or would they be the trustee that would do remote transactions more so? Because that would also affect their decision making later on as to what form of storage that they would like if they decide to store with one of the GBA facilities. So that would be the step 2, if you wish. And obviously, if the trustee decides that the auditor says take it home, which is something that we, like I said, very rarely see these days, it is up for them to make that call, and we can help them with the logistics of that too. When we talk about bullion, you could do what's called pool allocated, which is a fraction of. So one of the questions that we often get asked is there a minimum spend that I have to put down before I make my first acquisition? The answer would be no. You could start at $129 for a gram of gold. Is it the way the supers go in? Most likely not. They tend to go in, like I mentioned before, as a lump sum. But for those who want to get in at a smaller amount, there is that option for them. The pool allocated is the most cost-effective form of storage, and it, like you said earlier on, it does tick all the boxes by ATO guidance of storage, because the third party, being GBA, can prove to the trustee and the auditor that the metal is held in the account at the end of financial year. So that makes it a bit clean cut, the distinction between the trustee and where the asset is held. They will get an end of financial year report with the spot price of the day to give them a market price of that metal. And that would pretty much help them in complying with the ATO ruling and SIS. The next thing would be if the client wanted different forms of storage, and I did see some comments that we'll cover later, but if the client seeks more control, there is the next stages to storage would be they could do an allocated service, which will tell them, I bought a kilo, I have a kilo. When I exit, I have a kilo. The one up from that is a serial number storage, which will quantify that 1 kilo had the number 888 on it. And at the same token, when I leave as the trustee, I get bar 888 back. Jumping to the one up in the sense of storage, for those who want to have their key and really control their asset, we have a private box facility in our different states where the trustee can come in, deposit their own stock after the acquisition. The same kind of KYC will apply, and they can deposit their stock and come at the end of financial year to get an EO fee by the provider at a nominal cost, nothing very extreme. So that's the other form. And lastly, and I'll let Katie elaborate a bit later about compliance additional, because she's that extra level of compliance. Lastly, you mentioned earlier what would be more common in the sense of investment, and you did mention that bars being cast bars. Cast bars are the method of pouring metal into a cast, thus they have a lower associated cost. Do definitely have more place in the SMSF market, more than the coins collectible, but not to say that I haven't seen them. So I've seen trustees make decisions as part of what they've formed as a structure, with quantifying what their aim is, to have things like, for example, a wedge-tail eagle, which is 1 of 5, for example, in a 1 kilo. I've seen that before. It is very rare, but every now and again, a trustee might make that decision. What we try to do is not make decisions, is really offer a wide range of services to fit within the needs of our trustees. Would you like me to elaborate about the numismatic versus the coins bullion? I think that's a common question that we get as well. Collectibles can be deemed also non-pure items. So bullion has to meet requirements for it to be investment grade. In gold has to be 4 nines pure, or anything above 995. Silver 3 nines pure, and platinum 995. So that brings it to the investment grade that doesn't carry, that fits the theme of the SMSF. Collectibles can also be deemed, in the sense of numismatics, things like sovereigns, which are 22 karat pure. They don't often come into SMSF. So it is quite important that the trustee, when they buy, they ask the relevant questions, because just because a Mexican peso, for example, has a very good return or is deemed, it can also have certain shortfalls in some areas. So it's a question that the trustee really needs to ask when they're buying from a provider. We typically stick to bullion because that's where our strength is, and it also meets the SMSF environment quite well. Octus product. This is another product that some of our supers are finding out that fits the theme. Typically, they are the more seasoned investor, so they might have diversification to the more modern approach of running a portfolio, as does the fund itself. It's managed through Singapore, which we deem a safe hub, as well as Australia. So a lot of the clients that we have really look at jurisdiction as part of where stock is held, because they want to be storing in a safer environment. So this managed fund, as opposed to the traditional approach, has a more active approach. It has it runs on an algorithm that has 55 variables. So it's a more live, active, follows markets, trends, price actions, grading, a lot of things in the background that are continuously running. And it has two versions of, so it's got Provectus 1, which is a growth environment, and then a more risky approach for Provectus 2. Exposure to metals, and I won't break it down in depth, but you have in the point of liquidity, you have gold, then comes silver, then come platinum, then come palladium, and then rhodium. So a bigger basket of goods than what we can offer in Australia, in a sense. And obviously, it's like I mentioned, it's still segregated, so it's still in a segregated environment in a vault in La Freeport in Singapore. Still meets all the requirements you do need under the SMSF structure. And so it's just another form of having stock also somewhere else, but also with a different approach that sometimes runs with higher returns. And again, that depends on the strategy that the trustee is comfortable with and what they're trying to achieve as part of their super. Probably the why one would consider having exposure to metals, besides the basics that you mentioned in the strategy as part of liquidity, diversification. Metals in a time like we're seeing now, where there's debasement of currencies and political turmoil, tend to perform really well. And one of the main reasons that we're seeing that trustees tend to opt to have maybe 10 or 20%, depending on what their appetite is, into that, would be predominantly because they're trying to preserve purchase power. That would be, and that would be the initial one. And the second reason would be probably to have a more balanced approach, balancing their higher risk assets in their portfolio. I suppose in the compliance sort of way, Katie. Maybe
I'm just going to cover up on a couple of things that I just noticed haven't been mentioned, which might be important. Just when you're looking at an investment strategy for a self-managed super fund, if you're considering metals as an option, you also really need to consider which metal products you're going to buy in terms of size. So that has a flow-on effect for the sale point, essentially. So if you buy one 10-kilo block, you can only sell it as a 10-kilo block. So when we're talking about coins not necessarily being included inside self-managed super funds, what we do see is self-managed super funds that buy an array of sizes so that you can sell 1 ounce bars as opposed to a 10-kilo bar should you be looking to make a pension payment or a drawdown on your super fund. So it is really worth considering the sell down side of the investment as well when you're selecting the items that you might like to invest in. And I'll just quickly cover up on the insurances because they got mentioned a little bit too. I guess the different considerations in insurance you have to think about. If you're going to be vaulting or even home vaulting, you need to have an insurance policy that covers the replacement value of those metal assets. So for bullion, generally speaking, those insurance contracts will track the spot price for your replacement value. Those insurance contracts that apply to bullion might not necessarily be appropriate to numismatic and collectible coins. So that applies specifically to safety deposit boxes. So if you were looking at a safe deposit box option as one of your sort of storage considerations for your collection, it's a great option. You can access it whenever you like. However, the insurance considerations is that within 7 days, that insurance contract does actually need to be in the super fund name, as opposed to bullion, where your account can be listed as an interest on an overarching policy. So I guess to explain that a little bit better, Gold Bullion Australia have an insurance policy for the replacement value of our vault. If you are storing your items with us in our vault, your items will be covered for replacement value with you as a noted interest on that policy. If you have collectible coins, you actually need to have an insurance contract that's in the super fund's name, which we can organise for you, but it's just something to consider because that would be an additional cost on those collectible coins.
I suppose lastly, just because gold is not mentioned as much, a lot of the time what we do here is that we don't know. So the customer says, oh, we don't know how to. So we encourage people to seek information and to ask questions and to know that for us as a business, supers are key, and we're happy to give you the time to discuss through and ask questions on a personal level so that you don't feel that it's, you know, cumbersome, because it's actually a very easy asset class to sit in. It's just not talked about enough. So we encourage you, and we have designated staff that really tailor or help you through the know-how before you make that decision. So you're coming as in best foot forward.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Katie. Thanks very much. So that's a great explanation. I have a question actually for you as a SMSF auditor, because at the 30th of June, as SMSF auditor, I need to prove the existence of the assets. If, for example, I have, if the trustee has a safe box deposit, what kind of confirmation you can provide for this for SMSF?
So generally what we see happen at June 30 is the trustee will come in and open the safe deposit box with one of our on-site auditors, and we will provide you with a holding statement that shows continuous ownership over that period to June 30.
Excellent. And you said on-site auditors, so the on-site auditor will sign the letter.
Yeah, so we have staff on site who can review the holdings and make sure that it tracks against what you're telling us should be there, and we'll provide you with a holding statement based on, I guess, what's in front of us on the day.
Yeah, this is very, very important, because if there is no confirmation at 30th of June, the photos of the, you know, say gold or silver bars, which trustees sent to the auditor is not good enough, because these photos, we don't know when it was taken. We don't know, you know, like, yeah, so we don't know the history. So, but the on-site auditors letter definitely will be acceptable. What about if it's held in the custodian? Do you have the auditor's report for the custodian?
So with our vaulting custody services, we can provide you with a holding statement as well, dated at June 30. The boxes is your sort of, it's more tricky than the vaulting option, because we wouldn't have access to your box. It would require you to come in with your key, and we have our master key, but we can't open it without your key. So you would need to attend site for that. But with the vaulting options like the pool program, or the communal vaulting, or individualized vaulting services in one of our main vaults, we can provide that holding statement, as we do have access to the metals.
And you've got the audit report for it as well?
Yes, so we provide you with a holding statement for it, yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So I'm just talking about with the holding statements of custodians. Now you were issued the guidance that we need to have the audit report, special audit report for it as well. But I'm pretty sure you have the probably audit reports.
Yeah, we have the ones that you would need to supply to the accountant.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. That's, guys, very important, because without these documents, the auditor will have to qualify Part A of the audit report. It means if you keep your precious metals at home, you can send me the photos. However, it's not good enough. I'll have to qualify the audit report. So yeah, that's important.
We do see also non-vaulting customers come in around June 30 as well. So we do provide those, even if you don't vault with us on site. If you bring those metals into the office, we can still provide you with one of those statements.
Yeah, that's very important from a compliance point of view. All right, let's have a look what questions they have. Do you have a template of some kind for writing out an investment strategy? Again, there are general investment strategies and templates out there. However, I wouldn't recommend to use any of them because it has to be tailored. Every investment strategy has to be tailored for the superannuation fund. And what we do, we send you a questionnaire, comprehensive questionnaire to answer. When you answer the questions, we will compile your answers together, and we compile the investment strategy for you. Because it has to be, again, tailored for your superannuation fund. Another question. While waiting for a rollover, is it legal to put personal money into SMSF and start investing until rollover is complete and then take that same extra? All right. I don't think this question is related to this webinar. You definitely can contact me and I will answer it. Yeah, I'll answer this question. I don't see how it's related to the webinar. Okay, Peter again. Is there any way to protect our gold from being seized by Australian government? That's a very interesting question.
So usually, Natalia, that question is raised as a result of confiscation that happened in 1933 in the US, and the drivers in the market were quite different as to probably why that happened, and that happened only to individuals, and it actually happened because at the time gold was actually pegged to the dollar.
Yeah.
The environment has changed in our world throughout those years, obviously, to say one, but also if you are that person that fears that you want to have more control over your stock, I always tell those type of clients the best way to do it is to find safe jurisdictions. Australia is deemed one. Singapore is definitely deemed another. If you want to have extra control, you actually could opt for the private box facility where we cannot access your stock at all. If you want to go that layer up, and that you control your own stock. So in that environment, like Katie, the auditor, cannot see what's in your box, or Ruth, the sales manager, doesn't have access. No one has access to your boxes besides you when you come with your key. And like Katie mentioned earlier, there has to be someone coming with you as one of our representatives. It's a 2-key method. Your stock is secure, and that would be probably where you'd sit if you wanted to take that extra measure.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the other thing you mentioned is Singapore, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have guys something in Singapore as well, right?
So Singapore is held, the stock for our Octus clients are fully segregated in a fully segregated environment, are audited in the same fashion. In fact, I had the benefit of doing a site visit while an audit was happening for one of our supers. Not to mention that the site where the stock is held is state of the art, something that not many people in their lifetime can see. But it's actually segregated in a caged environment where there is a seal on each cage. And so it's fully registered whether anything moves in or out. There are very strict controls, and the Singaporeans are meticulous at following those guidelines. And we do have external auditors. For those who are worried, and I know that I typically always get asked the question because I deal probably with high net worth individuals that want to make sure that their asset is secured. We have external parties auditing all account holder stock yearly. It's not us that are auditing. It's an external party that comes to check that metals are in the environment that they should be stored and are segregated according to how the account sits. So that's another reassurance that we take that extra step so we can demonstrate to our clients that they can sleep at night and know that their asset is securely stored.
Yeah, very good. So, right. Are there any differences in the quality of gold we can purchase? It's actually a very good question. Quality of gold. I guess purity, right?
So purity is the key factor. But obviously, when you purchase with the more prominent brands in Australia, then you will be probably have an easier time selling them. We only stock reputable brands, so we don't do any gold that's not typically very common in the marketplace, because we want our customers to have that confidence that wherever they go, they will get a full return on their products. So definitely ask the questions when you go to trade anywhere. You're looking for a specific purity, which I'm happy to engage with later, so I don't repeat myself too much.
Yeah.
But it is important factors to consider when you are doing acquisitions. Yeah.
Just on that one as well, if you're considering investing in metals that are below bullion grade, then you need to be really careful around that collectible numismatic situation as well.
Yeah. All right. Where is it best to buy physical gold, silver from, and best places to store? Of course, the best place GBA Group, right, guys? And store. But we will be sending the recording of this webinar, and we also will be sending a brochure from GBA Group, where you'll find more information about different types of like investments you can make with GBA Group, and also how to do it, where to go, which website to go, what you need to provide for SMSF, etc., etc. All will be sent to you, because I don't think you can answer it in one word apart from come to us and buy from us. Okay, should be the trustee a corporate trustee to be invest on gold only? Sorry, I don't understand this question.
Both. The answer is both, I think. So individual trustees and corporate trustees can both invest in gold, and it doesn't make much difference which way you want to go, as long as your super funds are complying registered super fund. Whether the trustee is corporate or individual is sort of immaterial.
Is your on-site auditor an employee of your company or someone independent?
So we have both. So we have independent auditors that are external to our business, but we also have sales staff who have been here for 30 plus years now, who can provide those end of financial year documents as well.
Okay. Do they have to be like registered auditors, or what qualifications do they have to hold?
I'm not sure on that exactly, because that's not a role that I personally do. I do know that the staff member that we have that does it will send those off to the accountants. So I guess it just depends how thorough of an audit you need, whether you have an accountant who needs the holding statement or who needs more.
Okay. All right. Very good. So any other questions? No, I can't see any other questions, but thank you so much, Ruth, Katie. Thanks so much. And guys, I will be sending you a recording. I will be sending you more information about GBA Group, and you can contact them directly and invest in precious metals. There are a lot of ways. I didn't even know myself all the ways you can do the gold and silver and other precious metals investments. So thank you very much for sharing this knowledge with us. I think it was a great webinar for everyone, and everyone got something out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia, for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you next time. Bye-bye.